The Zion mansion never felt like a home. It was vast, elegant, and suffocatingly beautiful. Marble floors that reflected crystal chandeliers, star glass windows overlooking the paved gardens. Guards stationed at every entrance. It was the kind of place women dreamed of marrying into, and yet you had never felt smaller. You stood in the dining hall, finger curled around the edge of the table, staring at the untouched dinner growing cold across from you. The clock on the wall ticked loudly in the silence. 11:47 p.m. He was late again. The front door finally opened, and the heavy sound of footsteps echoed across the hall. You started instantly. Someone walked in just in all black, suit perfectly tailored, tie slightly loose, hair falling over his forehead. His presence alone could silence a room cold, controlled, and untouchable. He didn't look at you. You are late, you said softly. He removed his gloves and handed them to one of the staff members. I didn't tell you to wait. The words were calm, detached. Your throat tightened, but you forced a smile. I made dinner. I thought maybe we could. I already ate. Of course he did. You nodded slowly. Oh, okay. He finally glanced at the table. Stop doing this. Doing what? Playing house. The sentence landed like a slap. I'm not playing, he whispered. I'm your wife. He let out a short, humorless laugh by contract. Don't confess it with anything else. The servants quietly disappeared from the room, leaving you alone in the heavy silence. You swallowed the lump in your throat. I know this match was not your choice. It was not yours either, he replied flatly. That doesn't mean we can't try. He looked at you then, no with anger, no with affection, just indifference. There is nothing to try. The air between you felt thinner. You don't even look at me anymore. You said you were standing despite your effort to stay composed. What did I do to deserve this? Jungkook walked past you toward the staircase. You existed at the wrong time. The words made your chest itchy. What does that mean? You asked quietly. He pushed at the foot of the stairs but didn't turn around. It means, he said evenly, someone else was supposed to stand where you are. He didn't need him to say her. You didn't need him to say her name, Ara. The woman he loved before the forced alliance marriage tied him to you. You gathered were like you gathered were like courage you had left. She left you. And he replied sharply, you are still holding on to someone who walked away. He finally turned around, eyes started. She didn't walk away, he said coldly. Circumstances changed, and I'm just a circumstance too. Silence. The silence was your answer. Later that night, you stood outside his study door. It was slightly open, his voice drifting out from outside. From inside, you had no mean to eavesdrop. But then you heard her name. Ara, you shouldn't have come back. Your bad is you didn't know she was back. His tone was different, softer, almost human. No, don't say that, he murmured. You know, none of this would happen if things were different. A push. If you had no left, I would have never married her. The words stopped. You felt your fingers go numb. Her. That was all you were, a replacement, a placeholder, a mistake. You stepped back before he could see you, your heart pounding violently against your rib. You walked away quietly, each step heavier than the last. That night you didn't cry loudly, you cried into your pillow silently because even your pain felt like something you had no right to show. The next morning you tried again because that's what you did. You tried. You waited for him at breakfast. He entered the dining hall with his usual composed expressions. Good morning, he said softly. He hummed in response. I was thinking, you began carefully. Maybe we could have dinner together tonight, just us. He poured his coffee without looking at you. I have meetings. You always have meetings. My work doesn't revolve around your loneliness. The words stung more than you expected. I'm not asking for your world, you said quietly, just a little space in it. You finally meet your gaze. You want honesty? Yes, I don't love you. You froze. I never will, he added. That it was clear and final. Your hands tremble slightly in your lap. You don't even know me. I don't need to. How can you be so sure? Because love is not something you build out of obligation. And what about loyalty? You ask. Respect. You have my name, you have protection, you live comfortably, that's enough. It's not enough for me, then lower your expectations. He stood up, adjusting his cuffs. You stood too. Why did you marry me if you were going to treat me like this? He looked at you as if the answer was obvious because our families needed this alliance. So, am a deal? Yes, you're Baptist. At least I'm honest about it. He continued. I never promised you love. No, you whisper, you just promise forever in front of everyone. That ceremony mean nothing to me. The sentence shatters something inside you. He walked past you without another word. And you stood there feeling invisible in your own marriage. Days passed like that. Cold conversations, separate bedrooms, unspoken tensions, but despite everything, you still waited for him every night. Still set his place at the table, still hoped. One evening, as rain poured outside, Jungkook received a phone call. You were sitting on the couch pretending to read when his expressions changed. What? He demanded sharply into the phone. He sat tightened. Which hospital? Your heart dropped. He grabbed his coat. What happened? You asked, standing quickly. He ignored you. Jungkook, he repeated, your voice shaking. What's wrong? He looked at you, and for the first time, you saw fear in his eyes. Ara was in an accident. The name felt like a knife twisting inside you. Is she? She is in critical condition. You said, I need to go. Of course you did before. But he was already walking toward the door. Jungkook, he called softly. He stopped impatient. What? You are leaving now? Yes. It's storming. I don't care. Your chest tightened painfully. What about us? He stared at you, incredulous. This is not about you. It never was. You forced yourself to not drive safely. He didn't respond. The door slammed shut behind him. The mansion felt colder than ever. An hour later, the power flickered. You frowned, then the lights went out completely. The house fell into darkness. You reached for your phone, no signal. The smell came next. Smoke. Your heart began pounding violently as you hurried toward the hallway. Flames were visible near the west wing, spreading fast. Panic consumed you. You dialed Jungkook's number. He answered after three rings. What? He snapped, distracted. Jungkook, you better trying not to cry. The house, there is a fire. Silence. What? The mansion is burning, he whispered. I think someone attacked. You could hear hospital machines faintly in the background. I can't leave, he said. The words didn't register at first. What? I just came out of surgery. She's still unstable. He stared at the growing flames in disbelief. I am trapped, he whispered. Call the guards. I can't find them. Then wait for emergency services. Jungkook, your voice cracked. Please come. There was a long push and then I can't. Your niece nearly gave out. She needs me right now. And what was I? The thought echoed in your mind. I'm your wife. You whispered. I will send men. He replied coldly. Stay somewhere safe. Jungkook, I'm scared. I have to go. The line went dead. You stared at your phone he had chosen, and it was not you. The flames grew louder, crawling up the walls, swallowing memories, devouring the life you had tried so hard to build. You coughed, covering your mouth. Jungkook, he whispered again, even though he couldn't hear you anymore. Your husband had gone to save the woman he loved and left behind the woman who loved him alone in the fire. The fire did not suppress slowly, it devoured. The west wing collapsed first class, shattering wooden beams cracking under heat. Smoke swallowed the hallway in thick, suffocating waves, turning the once pristine mansion into a burning maze. You cover your mouth with your sleeves, coughing violently as tears streamed down your face, not just from fear but from the smoke clawing at your lungs. Help! You screamed, your voice barely audible over the roar of flames. The emergency alarm had failed, the guards were nowhere in sight. Something about this felt deliberate. The staircase ahead of you groaned, sparks flying from the railing. You took one step forward. The wooden panel above you collapsed. You stumbled back with a cry as burning debris crashed where you had been standing seconds ago. The path downward was gone. You were trapped on the upper floor. Your hands trembled as you dialed Jungkook again. No answer. You tried once more. This time it rang and rang and rang. Then voicemail. You didn't realize you were crying until your vision blurred. You pressed the phone to your ear anyway. Jungkook, your voice broke barely above whisper. I don't know how much time I have. The stairs collapsed. I can't breathe properly. You coughed violently, falling to your knees. I know you choose her. I know she needs you. A sob escaped you, but I'm scared too. The line beeped softly, signaling the end of the voicemail. You stared at the screen. Call ended. You tried again. This time, phone switched off. Something inside you shattered completely. At the hospital, Jungkook stood beside Ara's hospital bed, jaw tight. Eyes cold and unreadable, machine beeped steadily around her. The doctor spoke carefully. She lost a lot of blood. The next few hours are critical. Do whatever it takes, Jungkook replied sharply. Money is not an issue. It's not about money, Mr. John. He exhaled impatiently. His phone buzzed briefly in his hand. One missed call from you. He stared at the name on the screen, his thumb hovered over it. Then the doctor spoke again. She is responding slyly. His attention shifted instantly. The phone dimmed in his hand. He slipped it into his pocket without returning the call. Back at the mansion, the heat was unbearable now. Your lungs burned with every breath. The smoke thickened, wrapping around you like a cruel embrace. You tied the balcony door looked. Your fingers shook violently as you searched for something, anything to break the glass. The nearest vase you threw it shattered uselessly against the thick, reinforced window. You let out a broken laugh. Of course, bulletproof glass. Protected from enemies outside, but no from the fire within. You stumbled toward the bedroom. Your bedroom, the one he never stepped into, the one you decorated alone. You fell beside the bed. Your sense draining. The flames licked the doorway now orange and merciless. You dialed his number again despite knowing it wouldn't connect. Pick up, he whispered weakly, but there was only silence. At the hospital, Ara's fingers touched faintly. Jung leaned forward immediately. Ara, her eyelids fluttered slightly. I am here, he murmured, his voice softer than it had ever been at home. You are safe, the machine beeped unevenly. A nurse rushed in. Her blood pressure is unstable. Jung stepped back reluctantly as they adjusted equipment. His phone vibrated again, unknown number. He ignored it. Then it rang again and again. Annoyance flashed across his face. He stepped outside the room and answered sharply. What? It was one of his men. Sir, the mansion. I know about the fire. Jung snapped. Handle it. There is a problem. He's a titan. What now? Madam is still inside. Silence. Jung's expression hardened. Why was not she evacuated? We couldn't reach the upper floor in time. The fire spread too quickly. His grip tightened around the phone. Get her out. We are trying, sir, but the staircase collapsed. The east wing is nearly gone. For a fraction of a second, just a fraction, something flickered in his eyes. Then break the windows, he ordered coldly. They are reinforced. Another silence. They find another way, he said, voice steady but sharper. Don't call me unless you have results. He ended the call and went back inside Ara's room. Upstairs, you were fading. Your body felt heavy with every passing second. The smoke blurred your vision completely now. You dragged yourself toward the balcony. Railing fingers scraping against the marble floor. You coughed violently, chest tightened painfully. Jungkook, you whispered weakly. Not angrily, not accusingly, just longing. The flames finally burst into the room. He surrounded you. Your phone slipped from your trembling fingers. The screen still displayed his name. Outside the mansion, his men finally managed to break part of the balcony glass using heavy tools. One of them climbed through, covering his face with cloth. Madam, he shouted. He found you collapsed near the railing, unmoving. Sir, he yelled into his communicator. We found her at the hospital. Jungkook's phone buzzed again. He stepped outside, irritation clear. But we got her out and closed his eyes. He closed his eyes briefly. And she is unconscious. Severe smoke inhalation. We are taking her to City General, the same hospital. He is clenched. Stabilize her. She is barely breathing, sir. The words lingered for the first time that night. He's just tightened. I will inform them, he said quietly, but he didn't move immediately. He stood still outside Ara's room, listening to the steady beep beep of her monitor. Then a nurse rushed out urgently. Mr. John, she is crashing. Without hesitation, he went back inside. An hour later, two stretchers were rushed into the emergency wing. One already inside, one just arriving. Two women connected to machines, two lives hanging in fragile balance. Jung stood frozen in the corridor, one door in front of him, another behind him. His man approached carefully. Sir, madam's condition is critical. He stared at the floor. How critical? Carbon monoxide levels are dangerously high. He swallowed. And Ara, the doctor from earlier, approached him. She's stable for now. The doctor says stable. The words echoed. He turned slowly toward the second operating room door. For the first time, he imagined you calling him. He imagined your voice saying, I am trapped. He is a titan. He pushed the thought away. This was not his fault. You were supposed to be protected. He had given orders. This was an attack, not a choice, right? The emergency door opened. Suddenly, a doctor stepped out urgently. Are you the husband? The words hit differently now. Yes, she is in critical condition. We are doing everything we can. He nodded stiffly. Smoke inhalation has several affected her lungs. If she doesn't respond within the next few hours, the doctor didn't finish the sentence. He didn't need to. Jungkook stood there, silent, emotion unreadable, but for the first time since the marriage, the thought captain. What if she doesn't survive? And the last thing she heard from me was, I can't come. Inside the emergency room, your fingers stood faintly as machines worked around you, unaware, unhearing, unknowing. And outside, Jungkook stood between two doors. One holding the woman he loved, one holding the woman who loved him. And for the first time, the choice no longer felt simple. Hospitals at night have a different kind of silence. It is not peaceful, it's heavy, suffocating, and waiting. Joe stood in the corridor between two ICU rooms. His shoes still smelled faintly of smoke. His hands were in his pocket, posture seated as always, composed and controlled. But his mind was not. Ara's vitals were stable now. The doctors had reassured him twice. Out of immediate danger, they had said. Yet his eyes kept drifting to the other door, your door. The red lights above the ICU entrance still glowed. Critical, his phone vibrated. It was one of his most trusted men, Minjae. Speak. Sir, we investigated the mansion and it was not an accident. Jungkook's chart tightened. Explain. The fire started simultaneously in three separate wings. That's coordinated. Someone brushed the security grid from inside. Inside, his voice lowered dangerously. Yes, sir, we suspect a mole. Also, Madam's wing was targeted first. The words landed slowly. Say that again. Her floor caught fire before the rest of the house. Silence, not random, not collateral damage. Targeted. His finger curled tightly around the phone. Find out who did this, he said quietly, too quietly. I want names. Yes, sir. The call ended. Jungkook stood there staring at the ICU door in front of him. Her floor was targeted first. He remembered your voice over the phone. The house is burning. I am trapped. And his own reply, I can't come. He inhaled sharply. No. He had made a logical decision. Ara was critical. He had meant to handle the mention. He had given order. He was not responsible for incompetence. He was not responsible for. The ICU doors opened. The doctor stepped out, removing his gloves slowly. Jungkook stepped forward immediately. How is she? The doctor studied him carefully before answering. She is alive. The wall hit his chest harder than expected. But the doctor continued. Her lungs were severely affected. She lost consciousness before help arrived. We have stabilized her for now, but the next 24 hours are critical. Will she recover? If she does, the doctor said carefully, it will take time physically and emotionally. Jungkook frowned slightly. What does that mean? The doctor hesitated. Mr. John, trauma like this doesn't just harm the body. Jungkook's expressions hardened. Just treat her. We are. The doctor gave him one last look before walking away. Jungkook stood there for a moment, then he pushed the ICU door open. You look smaller, fragile, almost unrecognizable. An oxygen mask covered half your face. Your hands were wrapped in gauzy. Where the heat had across your skin, machines beeped softly beside you. For the first time since the wedding, he looked at you properly. Not as an obligation, not as a contact, not as a person. His eyes lingered on your fingers. They were slightly curled, as if still reaching for something. His mind betrayed him. He imagined you holding the phone, calling him, begging him. He looked away immediately. You are alive, he muttered quietly, almost to himself. No response. Of course not. You were unconscious. He stepped closer to the bed. For a second, just one, his hand hovered above yours and stopped. He was not sure what he intended to do. Hold it. Why? The withdrew his hand. He withdrew his hand and suggested, this shouldn't have happened. He said coolly, as if explaining it to the silent room. You were supposed to be protected. The machines continued their steady rhythm. His phone buzzed again. Another update. The mole had been identified. One of the security supervisor bribed by a rival gang. The order was specific. Minji said on the call they wanted to destabilize you, target something personal. Jungkook's eyes shifted slowly back to something personal. They assumed you would be at the mansion, Minjae continued. But when they realized you were not there but didn't stop the operation, Jungkook's voice turned dangerously low. So she was never the main target? No, sir. Silence stretched between them. It was not random. It was not just an attack. It was leverage, and he had left that leverage alone. Disposed of him, Jungkook said slightly, yes, sir. The call ended. He remained standing there, staring at you. If he had been there, if he had answered properly, if he had gone back, would it have changed anything? He didn't like questions without control. He didn't like doubt. But for the first time in years, doubt crept in. Across the hallway, Ara slowly regained consciousness. A nurse called for Jungkook. Immediately, he stepped into her room. Her eyes fluttered open weakly. Jungkook, she whispered, I am here. He replied instantly, sitting beside her bed, her fingers stretched toward him. He held her hand. I thought she breathed unevenly. I thought I was going to die. You didn't. Her eyes searched his face. You came? Yes, a push. Did you leave everything? Yes, she gave a faint smile, but then her gaze shifted slightly. Your wife, she murmured. His expression changed. She's being treaty. Ara frowned weakly. I heard something happen. He didn't answer it immediately. There was an attack. Her fingers tightened slightly around his. Is she okay? She is alive. I looked at him carefully. And you stayed here? The question lingered in the air. His head tightened. She was handled. Ara's expression shifted subtly. Jungkook, she whispered, voice fragile but steady. You shouldn't have chosen me over her. He froze. It was not about choosing, he said coldly. It was. Silence. She's your wife by arrangement, and yet Ara says softly, she called you, didn't she? His eyes flickered. Ara sighed. She called. She continued gently, and you didn't go. His voice sharpened. You don't know what happened. I know you. She replied quietly. The room felt smaller. Suddenly, she needed you more than I did. Ara whispered. I had doctors, machines, and stuff. He stood up abruptly. You were dying, and she was burning. The words stuck harder than any accusation. He stared at Ara. For the first time in years, he had no defense. Hours later, he returned to your ICU room. The lights were dim, your condition remained unstable. He noticed something on the bedside table, your phone. One of the nurses must have placed it there. He picked it up. The screen was cracked, smoke stained. There were multiple missed calls to him, one voicemail, sent minutes before the line went dead. He hesitated, then pressed play. Your voice filled the quiet room, weak, struggling. Jungkook, I don't know if you will hear this. A soft cough. The stairs collapsed. I can't get out. His grip on the phone tightened. I know she needs you. I know I'm not the one you wanted. Silence, shaky, and breathing. But I didn't want to die without hearing you say you need me just once. The message ended. The room felt unbearably silent. He saw tired. He replayed it again and again. Your last conscious words were not anger, no blame, just longing. His chest felt unfamiliar, heavy, and uncomfortable. He looked at you, pale, under hospital lights, fighting for breath. For the first time, he realized something terrifying. If you died, the last thing you would remember from him was rejection. He slowly sank into the chair beside your bed, his hands clasped tightly together. I didn't think, he began quietly, who is attained. He stopped. He had never needed to explain himself before, never needed to justify a choice. Power had always protected him from consequences. But this was different. His eyes shifted to your bandaged hands again. You had waited for him every night, cooked for him, defended the marriage, and when the house burned, you still called him first, not his man, not emergency services, him. His jaw clenched painfully. He leaned forward slightly. You are not allowed to die, he murmured. Almost harshly, not after this, because if you did, there would be no fixing it, no correcting it, no proving that he stopped the thought immediately. Proving what? That he cared. He exhaled sharply. No, this was guilt. Nothing more. It had to be. The machine beside you beeped steadily. Your chest rose weakly under the oxygen mask, and Joe sat there for the first time in your marriage, not as a mafia king, not as a cool husband, but as a man realizing he might have deserved something he never bothered to understand. At this time, money, power, violence, none of it could reverse the choice he made. Outside the room, the doctor spoke quietly to a nurse. If she survives, he said carefully, glancing toward Jungkook through the glass. Recovery won't just be physical. Inside, Jungkook listened to your voicemail again, and for the first time, the word wife didn't feel like a contract. It felt like something he had failed. Morning arrived without warmth. The hospital corridor smelled of antiseptic and sleepless regret. Joe had no left your side all night, no when the nurses changed your oxygen levels, not when the monitors fluctuated, not even when Ara's doctor came twice to update him. For once he didn't move. He sat beside you, elbows resting on his knees. staring at the rise and fall of your chest as if the rhythm alone held him accountable. Mr. John, the doctor's voice was calm but firm. Jung stood immediately. Is she stable? For now, her lungs are responding to treatment. She is strong. Strong. He almost let out a hollow laugh. You were the one who had endured weeks of emotional distance without complaint. The one who waited at the dining table, the one who called him while flames surrounding you. Strong. When will she wake up? He asked. Soon, the doctor replied, but you should prepare yourself. For what? She may not responding to you the way you expect. Jungkook's expression hardened. What does that mean? The doctor held his gaze. Trauma changes people. You woke up in fragments. First, the sound beeping, steady, mechanical, the light, too bright, then pain. Smoke. I can't come. Your eyes open fully. The first thing you saw was a white ceiling. The second, him. Joe stood near the window, back turned, speaking quietly on the phone. No one touches him until I arrive, he said coldly. I want him alive. His voice was calm again, controlled, familiar. You stared at him in silence. He turned slyly and froze. Your eyes were open. He entered the car immediately and walked toward the bed. You are awake. His tone was neutral, not soft, not cold, just mired. You blinked slowly. The oxygen mask muffled your breathing. He pressed the call button for the nurses. They said you might feel discomfort. He added, don't try to talk yet. You kept staring at him. There was something different in your gaze. Not anger, no relief, just distance. The nurse came in briefly, checking your vitals, adjusting the mask. She's stable. Keep stress minimal. Stress. You almost smiled behind the mask. If only she knew. When the nurses left, silence filled the room. You pulled the chair closer to your bed. You were unconscious for almost 12 hours. You didn't react. There was an internal breath. She continued. The man responsible is being handled. Still nothing. He frowned slightly. You are safe now. Your eyes slowly shifted away from him to the wall, and if you were no longer relevant enough to look at. A faint crest formed between his brows. Say something. You inhaled slowly through the mask. Then, weakly, you removed it slightly. Why? Your voice was barely audible. He sat tightened. Don't strain yourself. Why? You repeated, clear this time. He knew what you meant. I had men handling the situation. I call you, his chest tightened. You said you couldn't come. He exhaled slowly. She was in critical condition. So was I? The words were not loud, but they were steady. He opened his mouth to respond and stopped because for the first time there was no argument to win. No authority to lean on. I made a judgmental call. He said finally, your lips curved faintly, not a smile, something empty. Yes, he whispered, you did. Silence. He leaned forward slightly. You survived. You stared at him for a long moment, barely. Another silence. Then you asked the question he didn't expect. Is he okay? His eyes flickered. Yes. You nodded once. Good. The simplicity of your response unsettled him. You are not angry? He asked before he could stop himself. Your gaze shifted back to the ceiling. No. That frightened him more. 2 days later, you were moved out of ICU. The oxygen mask was gone, replaced by a lighter nasal tube. Your voice remained fragile but clear. Jung handled everything personally. Private nurses, security doubled. Media silence enforced. He stood by your bed again that evening. You will be discharged in a week. You nodded. I have arranged for the East Estate to be renovated. We won't return to the burned wing. We? The single word stopped him. Yes, he said carefully. You turned your head to face him fully for the first time. Your eyes were calm, too calm. I won't be turning. His expression hardened slightly. You need recovery. I know. Then you will come home. You studied him. No. The word fell between you, Kylie family. He said Titan, don't be irrational. I am not. You are still weak. I was weak. You cracked it softly that night. Silence attached. He stepped closer. You are my wife. Something flickered in your eyes. I was. The words felt like eyes sliding down his spine. What does that mean? He took a slow breath. That night I was burning. I stopped being your wife. His pulse quickened. That's dramatic. No, you said evenly. It's the truth. He stared at you as if he didn't recognize the woman in front of him, the one who used to wait at the dining table, the one who asked for dinner together, the one who begged him to come back. This version didn't beg. You didn't get to decide that alone. He said, I didn't. You replied calmly. You did. The room felt smaller suddenly. You choose her. You continued. That's fine. I understand. Understand? He repeated sharply, yes, his voice lowered dangerously. You think I abandoned you? You did. The bluntness hit harder than accusation. I had priorities, and I was no one. He opened his mouth, closed it, because again there was no lie he could say without conducting a reality. You adjusted your blanket slightly. I want a divorce. The word landed like a gunshot. His expression darkened instantly. No, it was not a question. You think you can just walk away from this marriage? Yes. You carry my name. You said it meant nothing. He froze. He has said that I was angry. You were honest. Silence. His breath grew heavy. This is emotional instability speaking. No, you said quietly. This is clarity. He ran a hand to his hair in frustration. You are overreacting. He looked at him steadily. When he called you, I thought I was going to die. He went still. I was not angry, you continued. I was not jealous. Your voice didn't shake. I just wanted to hear you say I mattered. The weight of that sentence is pressed down on him. You didn't. His throat felt dry. I was scared too, he said finally, low. Of losing her, you replied, the truth sharp and unavoidable. He stepped closer to the bed, desperation begging to crack through his composure. I didn't think you would, but you are so fleet, Dai. He fell silent. You nodded slowly, neither did I. A tear slid down your temple, not dramatic but just honest. But when you said you couldn't come, something inside me ended. His chest felt tight. You survived, yes, and now I get to choose. He stared at you, something unfamiliar burning behind his eyes. Choose what? Myself, the word felt final. He took a shaky breath. You think I don't regret it? You studied him for the first time. I think you do. The admission lingered, but regret doesn't erase choices. He felt it then, the shift, the power he always held over every situation gone. You're not leaving me, he said, but it sounded less like an order and more like a play. You held his gaze steadily. I already did. Silence followed the room. For the first time since your wedding, he looked like a man who had lost something. Not violently, not dramatically, but permanently. You looked back against the pillows. 12 hours, you whispered. What? There's how long I was unconscious. He didn't understand. You stayed with her. You continued softly for 12 hours. His bed caught. I stayed in a burning house waiting for you. Each word was steady yet, and you didn't come. The final nail, he looked away first because he couldn't argue, couldn't justify, couldn't rewrite that night. You closed your eyes gently. Please leave. The words were quiet but final. For the first time in his life, Jungkook had no command to give, no threat to make, no deal to strike. He stood there a moment longer, hoping, waiting for you to call him back. You didn't, and as if he walked toward the door, he understood something too late. He had saved the woman he loved and lost the woman who loved him, and this time there was no fire to blame, only a choice.